welcome to the Oakles channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. Today focusing on a game called The Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle for the original Game Boy. Now, that was a game I saw like all the time growing up in like used game bins. We always went to a place called Digital Planet. They had it on the NES as well as the Game Boy, and I'd always see it there, but I was never like a huge Looney Tunes fan. I obviously knew who all the characters were and watched it some growing up, but I preferred Tiny Toons and some really great Tiny Toon games on the NES. But we'll get to that in another video for another day. But I'd see this game and I'd always just sort of skip over it and, really not worry too much about it, which is a true shame because it is a really top tier game. And I wish I could go back in my childhood and experience all of them in the original glory. And it would probably be one of my favorite games on the Game Boy, at least as a kid, because it's a very simple puzzle platformer arcade style game. It reminds me a lot of a game called Mappy for the arcade, and I adore Mappy. Mappy is like one of my all-time favorite arcade games, and so to have a Game Boy game sort of capture the style of Mappy, but have like individual levels and individual puzzles to figure out, I mean, like it's just a truly great game, and I'm looking forward to going through all four of them. I just simply hope they keep up with the same overall gameplay through the entire series. We'll figure all that out as we journey through more of the games throughout the challenge. But today we're focusing on just simply the first one here, and so let's go ahead and dive into the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle. Now, this particular video did get moved up in our queue a bit because Ryan Sokolsky 2680, if I'm saying that correctly, requested I cover it sooner or later, as well as Hyperion on top requested I cover it sooner or later, so naturally the game was moved up in the queue. So again, if you want to see me cover it sooner or later, let me know the name of the game in the comments down below, and just like the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, I'll move it right on up. Now I can start the videos off, link the box art for the game first, and the box art here, it does summarize the game, but it is an odd artistic direction, because it has Bugs Bunny down there collecting all the carrots, which he does in the game. You have your core enemies, Daffy Duck, Sylvester the Cat, as well as Yosemite Sam. And I'm always curious, like, why is Daffy Duck a villain? Because, like, isn't he an ally of Bugs Bunny in the cartoon? I could be wrong on that. I didn't watch it a ton growing up. But the odd artistic direction here is like the entire cover is just simply a white background with like a small triangle displaying the overall level design. And I'm not really sure like why they went that direction. And even like in the white background has like little watermarks of all the other characters. And I don't know, it's just a odd cover. I guess the little flag symbol there represents like the crazy castle. Castles have like, family crest and whatnot. And I guess Bugs Bunny's family crest is a double carrot there, like double swords. But anyway, we're diving too far into the cover. It summarized the game. It's just simply a unique direction. Now, when you load the game up here, the title screen has the classic Looney Tunes circles around Bugs Bunny's head, the title of the game off to the left-hand side, and just a very average title screen. Now, when you start up here, you obviously begin in level 1. There are 80 levels that we have to go through, and I'd say like the first 10 levels are more like a tutorial as far as like showing the different enemies you're going to encounter, different items you're going to get, and the overall different level landscapes that are going to be available. They're going to repeat and just simply get harder as you progress here. And so you do play as Bugs Bunny, and your goal is to collect every single one of the carrots on the screen. And there's going to be like little staircases. You can go up and down. They have little arrows telling you which direction you're going to go to. Some levels have like little pipes that you get in. The pipes are going to traverse you to a different area inside the overall stage. And as you're trying to collect all these carrots and move around, there are enemies that are going to try to attack you. You start off with just Yosemite Sam, who's journeying back and forth. Then later on, you get like Sylvester the Cat, then Wile E. Coyote, then Daffy Duck, and I believe that's the only ones that you get inside the game. I did double check, and those are indeed the only 4 you're going to encounter. And as you're going through here, there are different items that you can collect in order to take the enemies out, because if you just simply touch them, that's when you're going to die. So as far as like items to take them out, you can get like little 10-ton weights. You can just simply push into them. If you push into them, they pass away. You can also get like a little boxing glove you can actually shoot out in front of you by pressing the B button, take them out that way. You can also get like a little magic potion or a tonic here. It gives you like star power, and this is by far the best one because you're invincible for maybe like 10-15 seconds, and you just simply run through the level, take out as many enemies as you possibly can. And when an enemy is killed off, they do not respawn, which makes the level so much easier once you've taken all of the enemies out. But at the first like 10 or 15 levels, you really only have like one enemy at a time or 2 enemies, and plenty of items in order to take them out, and you can traverse these levels very easily as you're journeying through it. Now, as far as like the graphics go, I do feel like they're very simple, but at the same time, they are very accurate to the characters and the items. Like there's never a character that appears on the screen that you don't know who it is. There's never an item that appears on the screen where you don't really know what that item is, and the levels are very clear as far as like describing exactly where you're going to go. And so they kept it very simple, very arcadey-like action, and I feel like they go together very well. Now, as far as like different level design, there are basically 3 different level aesthetics that you're going to go through. One looks very similar to like the overall rooms of Mappy. Second one is going to look very similar to like the outside of an apartment building, journeying up and down these different staircases. And then the third level is going to be focused mainly like on maybe a sewer look, I guess, because you have all these different basically pipes that you journey through. And those levels are just simply going to repeat aesthetic-wise as you journey through all of these different 80 levels. They're simply going to get harder as you progress, as far as like adding more enemies into the mix or adding more passageways that you can go through, or just simply having to backtrack more often. So the game is going to definitely get much more harder as you progress. And so I'm not going to go through like every single one of these 80 levels because that would get a very long video and very monotonous at the same time. And so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go through like sort of the highlight of sort of hardest levels here. And so I think the hardest earlier level you're going to come across is level 33. And this is when the pipes really start getting fairly difficult, because you hop into a pipe and you traverse the entire landscape here. And when you get on the far other side of the level, you don't really know which enemies are going to be over there as far as like walking back and forth. And so you may just simply hop out of a pipe and you're immediately going to die. And there's no way that you could predict that. And so you have to start like memorizing the levels a little bit as far as like, you know, different enemy direction you're going to walk in, at least early on. They will change their direction based on where you're at. But when you first start the level, they are going to be going in a static direction, at least for a little while. And so this level here probably took me, I'd say maybe 10 or 15 tries to actually get down. I will say, like, as you're going through here, every time you beat a level, you get a 1-up. And you're obviously going for a high score. You never want to have a game over because your score keeps adding up. But if you don't really care about the game over, you simply have basically infinite lives here in order to finish the game. And so I did a heck of a lot in level 33 here. And another one I had to take a lot of tries at was going to be level 56. As I was going through it here, it felt like you always needed to go down to the bottom middle, but the enemies also followed you down to the bottom middle, and it's very difficult to get out because there's simply a lack of items in this level. And so I felt like this one was a fairly hard one. But as far as like levels 0 or level 1 through 50 or level 1 through 60, for the most part, they weren't too bad. Maybe 1 or 2 tries, and there were just a few exceptions here and there. However, when you get to level 60 through 80, this is where the game like really does up its difficulty quite a bit. And I would say every single one of these levels, except for like maybe 2 or 3, you're gonna have to take at least 3 or 4 tries on in order to get down a strategy or figure out like where enemies are at or exactly what direction you want to go in. And I'd say this is probably where the game was really the most fun, because you had to like really think about it and you know, just sort of think out a strategy for it. And that's what I really enjoyed about these games. Like when I used to play Mappy on the arcade, like I had to figure out a strategy, like which order you want to collect the different items in order to maximize your points, in order to get the highest score. And so it reminded me a lot of that. And like I said, Mappy is a fantastic game on the arcade. And so to recapture sort of that same energy really made me excited for this game. I will say, of the levels 60 to 80, I'm going to go through the hardest levels in the game. I feel like level 77 was probably the second hardest, because there was just so many pipes leading to so many different directions, and so many of the pipes you had to pop out of and then basically just run really fast or time it right of where the enemy is going to be in order to jump into another pipe on that same level, because you didn't have enough items to actually kill them off. This level was pretty darn hard, but the hardest level was probably level 74. Because there were so many pipes, I mean, just tons of pipes, and so many went up vertically. When you go up vertically, you can't really see where you're going at all, and so many of them like twist and turns. This level here probably took me a solid 10 or 15 tries, maybe even more than that. But it was a really fun level, and even though you get frustrated to the point of like, I really want to beat the level, not frustrated and like, I just simply want to quit the game. So the game definitely has a charm for it. But when you get to the final level in the game, which is level 80 here, I'm not going to say it's disappointment. It's actually sort of a relief here to have an easy level compared to some of the earlier ones. But I beat it in like 2 tries, and I think there's probably like harder paths you can go on. I simply sort of figured out the meta for it a little bit quickly, because I was able to get like pretty much every one of the carrots within just simply going for like maybe 1 or 2 pipes and finish the game out. Now when you finish it up, you have a little Bugs Bunny down here doing like a little celebration jump, which is very similar to the same jump you do every time you beat a level in the game. And then you have just simply says, congratulations, you are a good player. So sort of broken English there. And there is no ending music, but it just simply has a repeat of the stage music, which is not like a problem, because like all the music throughout the game is pretty good music. I actually kept this volume on throughout the entire experience, which was like maybe like 3 to 4 hours to finish this game. I think it's probably close to 3 hours. But regardless, I enjoyed the music the whole time. Sometimes when I play these Game Boy games, like the music gets old after a while, I do cut the music off in the background. Where this one, I just simply enjoyed the music the entire time. And even though there's only like 3 or 4 tracks you just simply repeat over, they were all good tracks. So not having like a closing in music, I would have rather had some credits music, because I always love a good credits music or credits theme. But it was still good music as an overall. But let's talk about this game as an overall. Now, me personally, I really did enjoy this game. It is very simple, very arcadey action, but happens to follow in the steps of one of my favorite arcade games. And so overall, like, I really did enjoy this game. Perhaps I could have added a few more enemies in there, or, you know, different level of variety. Maybe we'll see what they do in the sequels. But as far as like the first game in a series called the Crazy Castle, I really enjoyed it. I know like the Crazy Castle games have been around for a good while, like I mentioned earlier. And I know like in Japan, I think it's like Mickey Mouse instead of Bugs Bunny, which is sort of odd, you know, two sort of opposing franchises here. But overall, I really enjoyed the game. I can definitely see myself going back to it. And so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And really, I'm just anxious to see how the future games improve upon this formula. Overall, great game. If you've never given it a try, give it a try, and I think you will enjoy it. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. So have a great rest of the day.